and welcome to this week's edition of Sports Talk in the Burgh. I am your host, Sam Dutch, and tonight's panel includes debuts Ethan Morrison and Colby Sherwin, along with the familiar face of John Hanna. Let's skate right in. Starting the night off tonight on the Pittsburgh Ice, the Penguins hired Ron Hextall as general manager and Brian Burke as the president of hockey ops. What do you think their first move needs to be? Colby, lace up your skates and give me your answer.
Well, I really like the hire of Ron Hextall. I think if you look at the teams he built in Philadelphia, they are contending for a Stanley Cup right now. I think the first move he has to make is trade Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin. They are both flat-out liabilities on the ice right now. Yeah, and don't make any good plays.
I like the hire of Hextall. Burke, a bit of a question mark, made some questionable moves up in Toronto, trading Tyler, the draft pick that became Tyler Biggs for Rickard Rakell and John Gibson, bit of a question mark. But then when you look at Hextall, he's definitely made moves. He's built through the draft, something that Jim Rutherford has not done whatsoever. Only one first-round pick, and they don't even have one this year. So I definitely agree. I think trading either Letang or Malkin would be a great first move, and he's not afraid to trade those fan-favorite players. Traded Scott Hartnell to shore up some cap space to Columbus for R.J. Umberger, so it's definitely moves that he's made in the past. Won't be the most excited guy as a player.
I really think this is a great move for the Penguins. I think this is the spark that they needed. They're kind of in like a weird spot right now with all of these veteran players like Malkin, like Crosby, Letang. All those guys are still on this team. They still have that kind of core. But this is the time where they need to really make some difficult decisions. I feel like trading away Chris Letang would be a good start to this, and I feel like Ron Hextall is a great hire. Not so much Burke, but I feel like Hextall will guide this team forward and hopefully be able to compete in the next couple of years.
I think one big move he could make to start off,
Ethan,
other than
you mean Hextall? Dave Hextall was a coach in Philly during Ron Hextall's tenure.
I think another move he could make, other than Letang and Malkin, is go out and get Jake Allen. He's the backup goalie for Montreal right now. I think there's absolutely no goalie presence right now for the Penguins. Both the goalies
always trade back for Matt Murray, who's been absolutely
the worst starter in the league right now.
Atrocious in Ottawa.
If he keeps the picks, gets some good players, develops them, I think the Penguins could be good in 4 to 5 years.
I'm not so sure about these trades, but we'll see what they do. But throwing it over to the main event of the weekend, Super Bowl 55, where the Chiefs fell to the Bucs. Do you think the game's outcome was more due to the Chiefs' injured offensive line and refs, or the Bucs' execution? Ethan, give me your super thoughts.
Well, look at this. Chiefs fans are blabbing away about the refs being the
NFL fans.
It's not the refs' fault here.
See this coming a mile away in the AFC Championship game. They were literally attacking Josh Allen on the ground when he lightly threw the ball and hurt their feelings. It is absolutely ridiculous.
To be fair, Josh Allen does have a cannon arm that could cause a concussion that ends a career.
I mean, I get the 11 penalties for 120 yards, but
you need to be disciplined.
Yeah, but look, especially in the Super Bowl, where this is the game that matters. This is the entire season right here that you worked for all year. If you're holding on to guys and not allowing guys to catch the ball, you're going to get called for holding or pass interference. But really, it's the Chiefs' O-line.
Yeah,
I really think it is.
Without Eric Fisher or Mitchell Schwartz.
Yeah, without those guys on the line. Without those guys on the line, Mahomes was running around all day, rushed for 495 yards in the backfield, which is an unfathomable number. Oh my gosh!
It's Mahomes was pressured on 29 of his 56 dropbacks, despite the Bucs only blitzing on 11%, 11% of the time, which is just insane. The fact that almost half his dropbacks he faced pressure, despite the Buccaneers blitzing 11% of the time.
The O-line, it looked like they didn't even care out there. Another thing with the defense, it looked like they couldn't even stop a nosebleed, and the receivers couldn't catch a cold if they tried. It was horrible. Mahomes was the only one that showed up in the entire game.
Brady should not have won MVP. It should have been someone on the defense.
Yes.
Or just give it to Todd Bowles.
Or Tyrann Mathieu for making Tom Brady play so great, because let's trash talk after you give up a touchdown. That makes perfect sense,
Antoine Winfield for MVP.
I do agree with that. That was a great move by Winfield.
After this weekend, Tom Brady makes an even better case for why he should be the greatest of all time, or he could be. So is he the greatest player in team sports history? If not, who is? John, who is your GOAT? Give me your best answer.
I'm going to ignore that pun. It's Wayne Gretzky. There's no other option. if Gretzky, simply because he's so much above and beyond every single player who's played in the NHL, if Gretzky hadn't retired in '99 and continued playing without scoring a single point, he never would have dropped below 1 point a game until 2016-17. That's over 1,300 games that he could have not scored and still became a point-a-game player. If he never scored a goal, still the most points all time. He and his brother Brent Gretzky, best scoring pair of brothers in NHL history.
How many brothers other than the Sedins played together in them?
Well, the Stutters were a lot of them, but I see you guys have.
So
have a
I'm going to go with
there.
Bill Russell. We talk about team sports in general. Bill Russell had 9 championships in 13 years as a player, 2 as a coach. He had a .444 field goal percentage, 15 points a game, and he averaged 22.5 rebounds. And he's a 5-time MVP, 12-time All-Star, and the Finals MVP award is named after him. You have to be pretty good to have an award named after you. Also, if we're going to go Gretzky, as a coach, he was 74,
okay,
75, and 10. I'm just saying.
It says athlete, not coach.
I'm just saying.
It's not coach.
I'm just saying because, Russell had 2 rings as a coach himself. Ethan, what?
I still think it has to be Brady here. I mean, the way he's been able to drive and be a team player, especially with his later years in New England, how he's been able to lead teams to Super Bowls and play really well with the guys around him. I mean, just the presence of him being able to bring Gronk out of retirement with Tampa Bay.
Yes, I'm sure it was all Brady and money.
Yeah,
there was no money involved there.
Antonio Brown, New England, bringing him out of the downward spiral that he was already in. I mean, to get those guys to contribute at a level that they were later on in the season in the Super Bowl, that's a pretty big deal.
Back to Tom Brady, every quarterback needs a star receiver, and Rob Gronkowski is just that for Tom Brady. Did Brady and Gronk secure the spot for the best QB receiver pairing ever, or who has it? Colby, who do you think makes the best pair?
Well, mine isn't 2 players that played for a long time, but in the years that they did play, it was a really great, phenomenal, best I've ever seen. And Tom Brady and Randy Moss had 3,065 yards in 3 seasons, 25 receptions.
They played 3 seasons.
I'm getting to it, Mike.
How does that make you the best receiver?
No, you can't be the best if you're undefeated. You played 3 seasons.
Okay, hold on. Brady had a career high in completion percentage with Brandy Moss and John Hanna. You must know these 2 because they destroyed the Bills the 3 years they were together.
Yes,
it also made Bill O'Brien a competent
all the time.
You have all time, over the past 2 decades.
I'm just saying, if you make Bill O'Brien look like a good coach,
because Brady and Moss are 2 of the best at their position, when you put them together does not mean they are the best.
Wait, what?
Just because they're 2 of the best, when you put them together does not make them the best combo.
You gotta be doing this for more than.
This isn't even a receiver.
Doing this for more than.
Gronkowski's a tight end.
Gronkowski's a tight end.
It still counts.
How? That's not a receiver.
Quarterback wide receiver.
That should be even more.
That's not a receiver.
That should be even more better. Gronkowski and Brady. I mean, when it matters most, they now have the most receiving touchdowns and the best combo. They're the best combo in the postseason. They rank 2nd all time in touchdowns, 13 in the postseason, and then they rank 2nd. I think they're over 100 touchdown receptions.
Oh yeah, you say number 2. Number 1, Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, Colts. 112 touchdowns, 12,766 yards. These are numbers. These are video game numbers. I don't think you could. I mean, I've seen you play Madden. I don't think you could beat them in Madden.
Now that we've talked about the greatest pairs and the greatest players in team sports history, who is the greatest athlete of all time? John, now it's time for your overall GOAT.
I'm taking this back over 100 years. I'm going with Jim Thorpe.
Who is that?
Jim Thorpe was a decathlon, pentathlon runner, won the gold medal in the 1912 Stockholm Olympics, college football All-American at Carlisle, and he also played in the MLB. And I think it's best athlete overall. If Larry Bird.
But we need to know who they are. If they're the best of all time, we need to know who they are. I don't know who this guy is.
Then you guys don't know sports.
No, it's because this guy played 100 years ago. How can you be the GOAT if we don't know who you are? Mine is Michael Jordan, 6-time champ in 6 tries, 4.79 field goal percentage. He had 30.1 points a game, 2.3 steals a game. The way he played the game, it's still talked about today. Trash talk stories are still talked about today about MJ. He is the GOAT. There is nobody better. And Larry Bird is behind Michael Jordan in every statistic.
Oh yeah. I still think he's the GOAT. I mean, he's a team player. He's played 13 years in the NBA, won 3 titles with the Celtics in a historic team. I just feel like, I mean, he's revolutionized the power forward position back in his time, and he's kind of paved the way for guys ahead of him.
You know who paved the way for shooting guards? Is Michael Jordan.
Yeah, but they're 2 different positions, Colby.
I'm just saying he was better than Larry Bird. John, I don't know who he is. I'm sorry, John.
Well, then you need to do your research. Jim Thorpe, shot put, 100 meters. These are great athletic events. These are things that you try and put Michael Jordan in the 100 meters against Jim Thorpe. I'd like to see.
Yes, but if we poll 100 guys, will anyone know who Jim Thorpe is? Maybe like 25% might know who he is.
25.
When
25 is the
when you're talking about Michael Jordan as being the GOAT, and people, it's a talking point. It's still talked about today who LeBron and Jordan are. I think that's a pretty good conversation to be. Who's the GOAT?
Well, those were all some pretty good picks. My personal pick would be Lionel Messi. But anyway, swinging on into baseball, Trevor Bauer spurs the Mets and signs with the Dodgers, a shock to many. With spring training a few weeks away, who's the favorite in the MLB, Dodgers or Padres? Ethan, who do you think is the hit?
Oh, it has to be the Padres. I mean, they've loaded up starting pitching. Yu Darvish and Blake Snell came over in the offseason. They have one of the best young rotations in Major League Baseball. I mean, you could argue the Dodgers have a little bit better now, especially when they stockpiled with when they got Trevor Bauer earlier late last week. I just feel like the rotation with Clevenger, I know he's out with an injury this whole season. That's a little bit of a blow, but I still think with Tatis and Machado, I think the team is in a very good spot to run the National League.
You also look at who they added. They added Ha-Sung Kim, who played for the Kiwoom Pirates of the KBO, 30 home runs last year, 24 doubles, a 306 average. I think that he's only going to bolster this.
All right, so I'm going to have to stop you. I will be the only one who picks the Dodgers. The Dodgers won the World Series last year.
Yes, and the last
they then added
was the Yankees from
They then added the Cy Young Award winner in Trevor Bauer. They still have Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Max Muncy, not to mention Kershaw, Bueller. Price is not the worst pitcher. Price is all right. And again, Cy Young Award winner.
Price was right about
last year. He opted out. So
It doesn't matter.
how do we know? How is he going to perform this year? We don't know. You have guys like Joe Musgrove, who is a season.
Joe Musgrove had nearly a 4 ERA last year.
He played in Pittsburgh. He played in Pittsburgh.
You still got to pitch the ball. It's not his fault that he.
I like the Pirates as much as much as anyone, but still, like as some guy that's a great middle of the road.
4 ERA is not a great pitcher. He's got
to thrive in his hometown of San Diego.
Is someone who should not be starting.
He's got to thrive in San Diego, and he's going to be able to pitch around some great guys, have some great cushion behind him, and especially with Machado and Tatis, they're really set up well.
We'll just have to see who swings into that victory and what's coming up after the break. Coming up, we'll talk all things college sports, so stay with us here on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
All over.
Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Stand is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet breaking, record breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. In college basketball, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and others have struggled this season, including Michigan State and North Carolina. Is the one-and-done era over in terms of tournament success after more experienced teams like Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan lead the top of the AP poll? John, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a strange season in general, and college basketball ebbs and flows. I don't quite think blue bloods, one-and-dones are quite done yet. I think it's still going to take, a couple more seasons. We've seen it. Nova's won 2 of the past 4 national titles. They've had no one-and-dones under Jay Wright. But I think, it's still going to take that. I think, Krzyzewski, Calipari, they are still going to have to try and get that out of their system, which who knows if they can. But it's definitely a strange season overall. So I think that, they still have the edge.
Right. In the top 5, Gonzaga and Baylor are 1 and 2. They're both built on seniors. But you have the other 3 in the mix, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Villanova. They all do incorporate one-and-dones, except Villanova, as you did say, they do have not many one-and-dones. Michigan and Ohio State both do incorporate the one-and-dones and experience. I think what you're going to see more now is one-and-dones and experienced players. We've seen this continuing as you talked about the trend. But another trend is most of the best number 1 out of the top 100 recruits do not win the championship. Zion never did it. Ben Simmons never did it. Markelle Fultz never did it. The list continues to go on and on. You have to have experience to make it through the tournament.
Yeah. Okay. So to start off, yes, it's a weird season. COVID has hit every team. There's been cancellations, struggles. Teams have not been able to practice a lot. So you're seeing these one-and-done teams, like they're struggling because they don't have the time to stick it out on the court. These teams like Gonzaga, they have that veteran presence on the court. They have those upperclassmen that can lead the way. We saw Gonzaga earlier in the year against Iowa when Gonzaga was on pause. They came back to play a neutral site game in I think it was South Dakota. They played out of their minds. They were hitting everything. They were playing well. They didn't even have to miss a beat. So yes, will we see now? Will this change the way these blue blood teams operate? We'll have to wait and see, but I think we're starting to change. We're going to start to see more teams opt for the more stick it out for 4 years.
Speaking of some changes, it may not be March for a few more weeks, but the NCAA tournament will be held completely in Indianapolis with Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan. Is this season legit with so many cancellations and historically good teams struggling? John, what are your thoughts on this madness?
Well, I think it's still legit. We've seen it. Baseball had concerns. College football had concerns. And all leagues have had concerns with COVID. All teams are going through with this. We saw RMU had games canceled. You mentioned Gonzaga. All teams, good, bad, wherever, they've had concerns with this. So I think there's nothing questioning the legitness of this season.
I think the only way this season wouldn't be legit is
if they didn't name a championship.
That or if they just randomly crown somebody based off of the AP votes. The way that this will be legit is the tournament continues, we play March Madness, and we find out who wins. That's the only way we're going to figure out who wins this, and I think...
we're talking about, these blue, like we mentioned earlier, these blue blood teams... They're in the outside looking in right now. Yeah, if we're not gonna,
the last top 25 poll that did not have Duke, Kansas, UNC, or Kentucky, that was 1961. To Kill a Mockingbird was the top book on shelves, and the top show on TV, the Dick Van Dyke Show. So it's just showing the dominance that these teams have had for so long, and I don't know if we're getting new blood or if next season we'll see, these guys back on top like we always have. But it'll be interesting to see Kansas, and you mentioned the one-and-dones. Kansas 265, North Carolina 323, Kentucky 341, and Duke 343 in terms of experience, according to Ken Palm. So these are young teams. If they stay, they're only going to get better next season.
Now here to RMU for men's basketball. They've played it to a 2-9 record in the Horizon League, but A.J. Brahma took a pause from team activities at Wright State, and the team has lost an overtime game in 4 of the last 5 series. Ethan, here's a bounce pass. What has been the downfall of the team?
I'm sorry, I hate to do this, but it has to be COVID. in so many inopportune times, this team has had to pause. They paused to start the year. They paused again after only playing one game, and then just as they were starting to hit their stride after the Purdue-Fort Wayne series and playing one game versus Milwaukee where they were without John Williams and Dante Tracy, I feel like just pausing at some inopportune times, I feel like this is the downfall of them. They haven't been playing bad.
You say COVID? I'm going with the team. There's a severe lack of depth. A.J. Brahma is the only player averaging above 10 points a game at 21. John Williams, 9.8. Khalil Spear, 8.9. Deontay Tracy.
Look, John.
Austin said earlier that he can't hit a shot if the rim is 10 feet wide.
Well, look.
So I think that it's the lack of. This team is not good.
They're not.
They're not
They're
good.
competing in games. They're competing in games, John.
Sure, you can compete in games, but you have to win.
They get blown out. That Wright State game that A.J. Brahma took
Their first game they lost by 9, Colby. They lost by 9 the first game.
They have yet to replace the likes of Josh Williams or Giannis Mendy. They have
Josh Williams. I mean, John Williams. Sorry, excuse me. John Williams. He's stepped up in the past couple of games.
Yes, he has stepped up, but he hasn't stepped up the entire. He hasn't stepped up the season. And he stepped up the past couple games because A.J. Brahma, their workhorse, was taking that quote-unquote leave of absence. And the defense also allowing 10 more points a game than last season.
And now, as you know, I normally intro these debates, but today we have our first edition of Video Topics, and Tyler Gallo is at the Event Center to introduce our next question. Tyler?
Thanks, Sam. And guys, I'm here in the Hall of the Colonials in the basement of the UPMC Event Center where some of the best Colonials teams are highlighted to the left and right of me, including the NEC tournament trophies that are over to my right. Now, with both basketball teams joining the Horizon League this season and not having the best start to their years, do you guys think they made the right decision to join this conference, or do you think they should have stayed in the NEC? Colby, what are your thoughts?
I think it was a smart move to move to the Horizon League. It's not their fault that the women's team lost their identity. They were more of an inside game. They had to switch to more of a three-point game, and they were struggling in the beginning of the year, but they figured it out. Sol Castro's turned into a superstar almost. They actually took down the #1 team of the Horizon League and swept them in Wright State. The men's team is more of a different issue. It's more A.J. Brahma and then everybody else. They got to find somebody, and COVID canceled 9 games.
I'm gonna say this. Look, we knew there was going to be some growing pains. Yeah. COVID didn't help much more. But look, this future is bright for this team. Give them at least 1 or 2 more years.
You rarely see teams go into new conferences. You rarely see them well. Unless, of course, you're talking about Merrimack, who won the NEC.
Yes, but that's the outlier. That's not the rule here.
Look, the addition of Brandon Stone and Justin Winston, they're going to be 2 key parts in years to come for this team. They still have 3 years of eligibility when they play next year. So
I definitely think it will be. Give it 1 to 2 years. We'll see them. We'll see them. This year, I think it's weird circumstances, new conference. I really think this year is sort of a write-off year.
Hard to jump into.
Up next, despite playing on ice, men's and women's hockey have been hotter than ever this season, with the conference tournaments now taking place at Mercyhurst. Which team will skate to victory? Colby, shoot.
I'm going to have to take the men's team to be better. We saw them last week take on Long Island University and blow them out in both games. They're better. I feel like they got a lot of speed on that team. They're top 10 in the nation in scoring. They dominate offensive zone presence. They're a very physical team. They're fast.
They seem a different team than last year. Last year they only had 2 players above 20 points in Nick Perkusic and Jacob Colban. This year they already have 3. Randy Hernandez 20 points, Grant Ebert with 21, and Nick Perkusic again with 20. And also women's hockey. They've struggled as of late. Obviously, they destroyed RIT a couple weeks ago, but they've now lost 3 of 4. They've been swept by the now CHA leading Penn State. They lost to Mercyhurst, who RMU has struggled against both men's and women's this year. So I don't know if the playoffs being in Erie will change anything. But it will be interesting to see. My money is also on the men's team.
Yeah, I also have to say men's. I mean, I feel like the women's have struggled against the top teams in the CHA, being Penn State. I just feel like the men's team is more built for going later into the conference tournament, and they might even have an at-large bid into the actual NCAA tournament.
Don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll wrap up this week's edition of Sports Talk in the Burgh with final takes from Colby, John, and Ethan. So stick with us.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? And now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
No, that's not right. How is it? Is it good?
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. It's now time for your final takes. Colby, you're up first.
Well, here we are again, Pens fans. A new GM in Ron Hextall and a president of team operations in Brian Burke. And now it seems like the best course of action is to rebuild. They have the 29th ranked prospect pool in the NHL, and they don't have a first-round pick till 2022. The first move has to be trading Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang. Malkin hasn't been the same since the bubble last year where he had 0 points and is an all-out liability on the ice every night. This year, with only 6 points, it's time to move on. And Chris Letang is basically a winger at this point. He's far gone from his series-clinching goal in 2016. It all came to a head in Boston a few weeks ago when a 2-on-1 with these two on the ice turned into no goals. Something in 2016 that would be a surefire goal. It's hard when a team trades team legends and begins a rebuild, but it's time to do it to avoid being where the Detroit Red Wings and the Los Angeles Kings are. It's time to move on. Letang and Malkin will be legends in Pittsburgh forever. Their help in 09, 16, and 17. It's time to begin the rebuild.
Well, earlier today, it was announced that the Dallas Mavericks would no longer be playing the national anthem before the start of games, which they had already done for the first 13 games of the season without anybody caring. And now the NBA has announced that they will be doing it, and the Mavericks have said, yes, we will. But ever since Colin Kaepernick started kneeling at the way back in 2016, the playing and protesting of the anthem has been a topic of debate in sports. Well, this is not the first time a team has not played the anthem. Goshen College, an NAIA school in Indiana, stopped playing the anthem in 2011. This is the first time a professional team has done it in the States. And I have one question. Who cares? Aside from championship games and international matches, no other league outside of the United States or Canada plays the anthem before sporting events. Why is it such a big deal in the United States? I think it's because we get indoctrinated at a young age with the Pledge of Allegiance in elementary school that, quote, America is the best country in the world, when in reality, it isn't. If people want to get mad at the lack of a national anthem, well then maybe there's a reason that people should have a national pride over the anthem.
On Sunday, longtime sports ESPN writer Pedro Gomez passed away unexpectedly at the age of 58. He was a successful sports journalist. His stories in his career. He worked for the Oakland Athletics and was their beat reporter for was their beat reporter from 1985 to 1997, and then worked for the San Jose Mercury and 1990. He also served as the national baseball writer for the Miami Herald from 1989. From that time, he also wrote for the San Diego Union and the Miami News from 1995, respectively. Gomez also worked in his career with ESPN. He also made a trip to Cuba back in 2016, which he made a trip. He's a Cuban American So he was able to spread his father and brother's ashes there. So that was a very big moment for him. His legacy will live on.
Well, thank you all for joining us for Sports Talk in the Burgh. We will see you in 2 weeks.